Imagine you are standing on the deck of the luxury expedition ship MV Hondius. It is April 1st, 2026, and you've just departed from Ushuaia, Argentina, the southernmost city in the world, for a dream voyage through the South Atlantic. On board are 147 passengers representing 23 different nationalities, from American birdwatchers to Singaporean residents, all eager to witness the raw beauty of Antarctica. But as the champagne bubbles in the lounge, a silent biological clock is ticking. Inside the blood of a 69-year-old Dutch passenger, a pathogen is replicating with ruthless efficiency. This man, an avid birdwatcher, had spent the last 4 months on a road trip through the rural heartlands of Chile and Uruguay. He didn't know it, but a simple stop at a landfill or a walk through a seeding bamboo forest had sealed his fate. Within weeks, his death would spark a global health emergency, leaving the ship anchored off the coast of Cape Verde, a floating prison of uncertainty and fear. The detective of the DMZ. To understand the panic surrounding the Hondius, we have to travel back to 1951, to the frozen trenches of the Korean War. More than 3,000 UN troops suddenly fell ill with what was called Korean hemorrhagic fever. They suffered from intense headaches, blurred vision, and internal bleeding. Many simply stopped producing urine as their kidneys failed. By the end of the war, the mortality rate stood at a terrifying 14.6%. For decades, the source was a ghost that haunted the medical community. Even a 13-year intensive research project by the United States ended in failure. The man who finally cornered this ghost was the South Korean virologist Ho Wang Lee. Between 1969 and 1976, Lee captured over 3,000 rodents in the heavily militarized demilitarized zone, DMZ, a strip of land so dangerous he was often mistaken for a spy and detained by the military. Despite contracting the disease himself, Lee never stopped. In 1976, he finally identified a specific antigen in the lungs of a striped field mouse, Apodamus agrarius, caught near the Hantan River. He named it the Hantavirus, identifying a brand new family of pathogens, the Hantaviridae. Lee's work didn't stop there. In 1980, he identified the Sol virus, an urban hantavirus spread by house rats that hitched rides on ships and planes to reach every corner of the globe. Lee eventually achieved a rare triple crown in medicine. He discovered the virus, established the diagnostic kit, 1989, and developed the world's first vaccine, Hantavirus, 1990. A biological dam breach. Hantavirus is a master of camouflage. It is an enveloped RNA virus with a genome split into 3 segments, large L, medium M, and small F. When you inhale dust contaminated by rodent waste, these segments enter your system and target endothelial cells, the lining of your blood vessels, and macrophages, the sentinels of your immune system. Unlike aggressive viruses that burst cells open, hantaviruses are non-lytic. They don't kill the cells. They hijack their communication systems. Through receptors called beta-3 integrins, the virus triggers a catastrophic leak. Think of your blood vessels as a dam. Under normal conditions, they regulate exactly how much fluid enters your tissues. Hantavirus makes the dam porous. In European and Asian strains, this leakage often centers on the kidneys, leading to hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, HFRS. But in the Americas, the virus triggers hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS. Your lungs fill with plasma, your blood pressure craters, and your body literally drowns from the inside out. This is why the Hondius was a nightmare. The mortality rate for HPS can reach 50%, compared to less than 1% for some European variants. The ecology of Ratadas. Why did the outbreak happen in 2026? The answer lies in a phenomenon called masting. Every few years, trees and bamboos, like the South American Chosquea, produce a massive synchronized crop of seeds. This creates a biological, all-you-can-eat buffet. Rodent populations explode in events known as Ratadas. When the seeds run out, millions of infected mice, like the long-tailed pygmy rice rat, migrate toward human homes and campsites. Climate change is supercharging this cycle. Milder winters mean more rodents survive to breed, and changing rainfall patterns are making masting events more frequent. Scientists now estimate that rodent outbreaks could increase 3- to 4-fold by the end of the century, turning rare spillover events into a regular threat. The Hondius tragedy, breaking the rules. The Hondius crisis took a dark turn on April 11th when the Dutch index case died. By the time the ship reached St. Helena on April 24th, his body was removed and his wife disembarked. She died 2 days later in a Johannesburg hospital, but the real alarm bells rang when other passengers, who had no known contact with rodents, started falling ill. This was the work of the Andes virus, ANDV. While most hantaviruses are a dead end in humans, the Andes strain is the only one capable of human-to-human transmission. Genomic sequencing, performed in May 2026 on a Swiss resident and a German woman who died on board, showed nearly identical viral sequences. They belong to ANDV clade 3, a lineage that can spread through close physical contact or shared respiratory secretions. The logistical fallout was immense. Over 30 passengers had disembarked at St. Helena and scattered to destinations as far as the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands before authorities realized the danger. In the Netherlands, 12 hospital staff had to be quarantined after accidentally handling infected bodily fluids. International health agencies had to launch a frantic multi-continent search to find every passenger before the virus's 42-day incubation window closed. Hope in a glass cage, the vaccine race. Despite the tragedy, 2026 has been a year of unprecedented scientific acceleration. While the Hondius was still at sea, Professor Assel Sartbeive and her team at Ensilitech announced a breakthrough. Standard vaccines rely on a cold chain, expensive refrigeration that fails so often it leads to 35 billion pounds in losses annually. Sartbeive's team developed a method called ensilication. They wrap the active vaccine ingredients in protective silica cages, essentially microscopic glass shells. This allows vaccines to remain stable at room temperature, making them perfect for the remote South American and Asian regions where hantavirus is endemic. Simultaneously, the U.S. AMRIID in Maryland is refining a DNA-based vaccine called PWRG/AND-M. This vaccine uses a spring-powered, needle-free jet injector to deliver genetic instructions that train the body to recognize the virus's surface glycoproteins. These advancements mean that within 3 to 4 years, a travel vaccine for hantavirus could finally be a reality. The 30-30 rule. As the Hondius was finally permitted to dock in Tenerife on May 11th, the world received a reminder. Nature is unpredictable, but we are not defenseless. For the average person, the risk of a pandemic remains low, but the risk in your own backyard is real. If you are cleaning an old cabin or a dusty shed, remember the 30-30 rule. Ventilate for at least 30 minutes before entering and wait at least 30 minutes for any dust to settle. Never sweep dry droppings. Use a disinfectant to wet them down first. The story of the MV Hondius isn't just about a virus, it's about the legacy of Dr. Ho Wang Lee and the new generation of scientists, like Assel Sartbeive, who are working to ensure that the next invisible stowaway never makes it out of the port.